Hi guys, it's Sarah with Grassroots Evolution Tarot, and I'm here to bring you a message I felt really strongly called to bring today. So for all my subscribers, I love you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. If you feel like this resonates and you'd like to see more when I can get them out, please hit subscribe. Join the journey with me. I'd love to have you along the ride. Before I get into the cards, I do just want to take a moment to call in spirit. I'm going to ask Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron, and my team of light, as well as any of your spirit guides or my spirit guides that would be along for the ride, that are here for the highest good of all of us watching. I ask them to guide, guard, bless, and protect myself, this reading, and any of you who would ask for it, as well as to use me as the clearest channel possible, delivering messages that are for the highest good of everyone watching, but also for the most far-reaching as well. So I was called to bring quite a few decks of cards in, and also I got a new deck, which I want to bring to you. It's the Guardian of the Night Tarot. The thing with this is, I've never had this happen, okay? When I opened it up, it's actually missing the Ace of Pentacles. It's literally missing a card. I take this as a sign, because again, I've never had this. Didn't fall out, like the card were sealed, and the Ace of Pentacles is not there. So to me, there is something, what I heard is like we're on the precipice, or we're on something, the edge of a new beginning. There's something coming our way. So I got a couple different decks I was really called to bring today too, as well. It's like one of the oldest decks. I've had this since I was 16. So my spirit guides, we're going to take that one, but not look at it until we get everything out. My spirit guides were like the angels. You need angels, and this is the angels that I was called to bring. So, I'm going to leave that one for a minute, but this is the deck, the new deck of cards that I got, and it's absolutely beautiful, the imagery underneath it. So first off, it says, without darkness, there's no light. And we've got like bees and poppies, the full moon all over this, as well as I believe tonight, I'm filming on the 27th of August, is a full moon and a lunar eclipse. So that's pretty cool. So let's just get some messages here from Spirit. Alright. So I'm going to start out with what the angel card had to say. And it is playfulness. It is definitely time for some playfulness. What I heard also is like divine excitement. It's time for excitement. So I'm not sure about you guys, but coming into September, it always feels like something brand new, because it's always been a brand new school year, brand new start, and it is definitely time for playfulness to come through. And they're actually saying, like, if things have felt really heavy and weighed down lately, some playfulness is really important to help lighten the mood, to lighten the atmosphere as well. So Spirit, what is an overarching energy that you would like to share with us? What they're saying is going into September. Okay, following this lunar eclipse, going into September. What is the energy? Thank you. And you have the Five of Swords here. Beautiful card. Right away, they said we need to change the way that we're thinking. For some of us, this has a lot to do with conservation. Because if you look, like, you've got the city spread in the background, it's dark and dreary, and then these trees have gone, and I'm hearing the Lorax, okay, like, if not you, then who? Like, who's going to do this? And if not now, then when? But also, like, all of the swords have been put into these stumps, and there is this deer here, the habitat. So there's an interesting situation. What I heard is that there's kind of like a collision of habitat happening right now. And for some of you, it's going to look like there is, the bottom is the Three of Pentacles. It's, well, here with working together. So for some of us, this has a lot to do with nature conservation, but also to do with, if you see the wolf and the elk here, has to do with teamwork, working together. In terms of conservation, though, as well, is like these wolves aren't going to kill more than they're going to eat. Just 1 minute, guys. Okay, I'm back. So this is working in teamwork with taking what you need, making sure that sustenance is there, but not desecrating the land while they're doing it. So for what I'm hearing, and for some of you, and again, if this doesn't resonate, just disregard it. Maybe it's not your message, right? But I'm hearing a lot of like capitalism, right? The exploitation of the earth, exploitation of that is what is desired. Same with the Lorax, right? The cutting all the trees down to get the tops because there was a demand for it at the time, and capitalism took its precedence, but then at the end we're left with no trees and encroaching habitats. One thing I heard, and I've heard from this, was also wildfires. I know I live in Ontario, and there's been a lot of wildfires of manifestation here as well. A lot of wildfires that have completely destroyed a lot of northern Ontario. This would be the woods, and you're gonna see animals who've lost their habitats moving into more city kind of situations just because, again, they don't have their habitats. They're talking to me about industrialization as well. And I think it's going to become really, really important as well to pay attention to this. There's more going on here as well. They're talking to me about, like, with trade wars and things like that that are happening right now. It may seem like a really good idea. I know the Ontario government has talked a lot about ways that they decided, like, that they've discussed where how they want to bring new jobs and things like this, but a lot of it's going to be in places where this is wildlife, right? And I know that there's also talks in the United States, which has happened before, but about wanting to drill in the Alaskan Wildlife Reserve, again, for oil. And this is stuff where I think it's going to take a lot of us saying, hey, no, what small gain that you're going to get from this, the immediate benefit, is completely outweighed by the long-term effects of what's going to happen. So, Spirit, can you tell me more about this? And they're saying it's not just about wildlife, it's in terms of everyday life, that sometimes something looks really shiny in the idea, or the deal looks like it's too good to be true, and this is where you say, okay, so this is what the benefit is of this now, but what happens in the future? Okay, what happens when we've cut down these trees and this resource is no longer available to us? What happens when we've poisoned this water because, we've taken away some of the things that would help clean it? Thank you. To the ground. You have the Two of Swords here with this beautiful frog and the Queen of Cups. And they're talking about this, what I feel like this is our heart as well. This deck is interesting. You also have a lunar eclipse, what it looks like here. And this Queen of Cups being able to dive in and out of both worlds. And they're giving me like the Marine Land or like Sea World or something like that situation where, again, human greed and capitalism has entrapped. So in so many cases, it's the orcas, right? The killer whales that have been stuck in tanks that are for our benefit, right? But have made this creature feel trapped and in confinement. So we have a Two of Swords here with this frog as well. That is, again, in the water and out of it. I feel like there's so much going to be importance of when we're making decisions. We're not only doing it with this mental space, we're also doing it with the heart space as well. I'm going to bring another deck in here, which is the Light Seers Oracle, Light Seers Tarot, to get a little bit of clarification on this. Like I said, this Guardian of the Night, this is the first time I've used it in a reading like on here. I've used it for myself a lot, and so the messages are interesting, and this isn't just because they're animals that I feel like this is coming out. If you haven't guessed, I do have a pretty strong social justice background, as well as how do I put this? Like, it's a background in like Marxist theory. Okay, so like there's a lot of stuff coming here, but it really is coming in through of not so much looking at again, they're going with like the need for human greed or the need for human consumption. And a lot of the things they're saying too is this doesn't just have to do with taking down the trees or taking habitat, and it doesn't just have to do with taking more. Like they're saying not just about taking more than it's needed. They're getting into the clothing industry for me too, okay? And thinking about, like, if you've ever seen the mountains and mountains and mountains of clothes that have been put in dumps in places like, I'm not sure if it's Indonesia but these places that are given these fast fashion, that they're using harsh chemicals that are not only hurting the workers that are there, they're polluting the waters and the soils in the areas, as well as that stuff's coming to us full of heavy pesticides. Some of them they're finding out actually, like I think Shein is in a lot of trouble right now for forever chemicals being in their clothing. And again, this goes to me as they're saying it's about like a globalization of sorts. And not that globalization is bad, but this needs to be done with mindfulness as a consumer. Okay, that if we know that there is a company engaging in unsafe practices for its workers, unsafe environmental practices, we need to use our money and use our buying power accordingly so that we're supporting the companies that follow in line with our ethics. So they're giving me an example as well, and I have here, this is the Nine of Cups and this joy, because I think it's really important when we go for this, like, so it's still in the same, but again, you want to have a clear conscience at the end of the day. So they're talking about, when you see here, there's this wealth, there's this treasure trove of riches underneath her. And for some of the, so they're going on twofold. One, you may not feel like you have this, but compared to some of the more developing countries that are producing the goods that we have, and the ones that are being exploited, there are so many riches that aren't even monetary, that they are not, like, they don't have it. So they're giving me an example of, like, from when I think I was either grade 8, maybe high school, early high school. I don't even think it was that. I think it was probably grade 7, grade 8 for me. I'm 41, so, quite a few years ago. But this is when it was just being found out, and the Nike was the one at the time that was being investigated. And then they find out it wasn't just Nike, right? It was a slew of expensive brands too. It wasn't just like this was cheap clothing or cheap shoes or cheap things that were coming to you, but Nike was using child labor. And these kids were being paid peanuts, being locked into factories, not able to go to the bathroom, not able to leave the facility during these work hours as well. And as well as they're giving me some of this is like generational as well. It's not just your kids, but the kids would have had, they're talking to me as well about like the silk industry, where kids had small, nimble hands that would be able to reach some of these places better than adults. So kids were putting their hands into like boiling vats of silk or in water trying to get the fabrics out. And again, this comes back to me so much on an educated and empowered consumerism. So I was watching a little bit of the news yesterday from where I am too, and it, again, like, the Canada and the US are in the middle of a trade war, and this is coming more and more too, where when we're buying our goods, when we're considering the cost of things, when we're considering like the tariffs that are put onto it too, no matter where you are, okay, no matter where you are in the world, when you're considering how you go about getting the things that you need, we want to come at this with a very balanced approach to using our heart and using our emotions and our understandings of what, again, these practices are doing to the earth. They're giving me this example of the caribou as well, and the overhunting and overconsumption to a point where they are at risk, right? If not endangered, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they are endangered. You don't see caribous very often. Not in Ontario anyway, but the numbers have dwindled so much, right? Because at one point this was really, really needed, right? And they were overhunted. And this has nothing to do with native practices, okay? Just putting that out there. It has nothing to do with that kind of take what we need thing. This has to do with, again, an overconsumption of it. So that's taken quite an interesting. The playfulness, it's interesting too that playfulness and manifestation are coming out, and this is the message that I'm getting. Tell me more, Spirit, with this Nine of Cups. They're giving me like this, if possible, being in the world but not of it. So being able to see what's happening around us and choosing actively to disengage from that, or choosing actively to fall outside of what's considered norm. So they're giving me things like thrifting. I love thrifting, okay? But it's also a way to avoid that overconsumption. Using things until they wear out, especially if we are falling into hard times, money-wise, recession, things like this. There are always places, like, again, thrift stores, if you need clothing, that you can find something that is going to be beautiful, like brand new, but you're not falling into this, I want to say, capitalist system. It is still a capitalist system because these people, like Canada, it's like Value Village, Toulouse, and whatnot, they're making money and selling donated goods. However, this is stuff that is absolutely keeping clothing out of the landfill. Some people are saying, my guys are talking about marketplace as well. I know definitely when my children were really little, people would be selling, whole lots of kids' clothing. And this is one way as well to keep the money with each other, right? Oh my gosh. Okay. So I think when they're talking about being in this world but not of it, going, okay, you know what, there is room for playfulness. There is room to, and again, I feel like this comes down to things that are non-monetarily valued. That finding joy, what they're talking about is in the glimmers. Finding joy in, like, things like taking walks in nature, in, like, smell of flowers, in finding hobbies that you really like to do. They're telling me to, I'm just saying what I hear about canning. Now again, some of it, that's me. Some of it could be you, but I know that they're going on a little bit about the, again, because we've been talking about capitalist society and capitalist greed, they're going on about, ensuring that you have what you need. So for some of you that they're saying this is things like also going directly to farmers if you live in an area that you're able to, and securing what you need to make it through the winter, or securing what you need for your family so that you're not relying on a capitalist food system. So they're giving me, I'm not sure, this almost feels like, my grandmothers, right? These generations of women who did make sure they didn't have the first massive grocery store. I'm pretty sure even in Canada did not come out until 1947. That means until 1947, people were feeding themselves. They were preserving their own food, going to, like, places where they could trade, or the general stores for certain things that they couldn't do on their own. But there was a whole lot more. They're like barter system, picking and looking for wild food. Definitely, I know there's a lot of people who are going to say that's not something that is even possible at this point. I know the World Health Organization has said for years and years now that the way to end world hunger is through small subsistence scale family farming, because this is a way that takes care of yourself. They're giving me as well World War II victory gardens, that what was the way that we were told in World War II that was going to be some of the most helpful ways to do our part. It was to grow your own food. So here's these things that have been, through generation to generation, that this is what's been taught. And 1 to 2 generations later, since 1947, people are fairly reliant on this capitalist system that's for their exploitation. This is widespread as well, what I heard. And what I like is that all these bowls, they're open. And to me, that they're full. Because there is ways to take care of yourself that, what I heard is, aren't going to fall in this capitalist greed. So one thing they're saying is, if you're seeing things on sale and buying fresh produce when it's on sale, especially in the summer or harvest season, freezing it if you have the room, doing things like that you can then get it later, but you're not spending the money in the wintertime when you're paying for more high heating bills and electricity bills that you've already got it in the freezer, okay? That's it. Okay, let's see if there's any more parting messages before I go. This message definitely didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. Thank you. And you have the Hangman. Much like the Two of Swords, to me, this is a decision and an enlightenment. What's on the bottom? The King of Pentacles. I feel like this is creating your own wealth and holding on to what you have. Right? Again, this wolf being beside him. It's not just the dog. There's a taming of the wild here. And I think that this is also... what they just said to me is kind of realizing that less is more. You're not going to need the most expensive things or the most... they're like on fleek or in fashion things, that there is so much more to focus on. And they're kind of giving me the words as you're growing up, okay? Because I know material, like a lot of us, especially as kids or younger, right, very materialistic, wanting the things. And then it gets to a point of going, yeah, but what matters to you? Health, right? Food on the table, roof on your head, making sure that you have clothes and that these necessities are met, and then there's extras. And one thing they're giving me is to have those extras. One thing that needs to happen is to conserve what you have. And for me as well, this comes with this Three of Pentacles, working together. So going to family markets, like family friends or family farms, going to farmers markets, supporting the people that are growing food around you, and or depending on going to places where, you know, they make their own food or whatnot, that they're even giving me like family restaurants rather than the fast food corporations. Go to places like that that are making meaningful differences in people's lives rather than supporting big business. Big pharma's coming in here as well. Spirit, what's one parting list? What's one parting list? One parting message, please. For anyone who's resonated with this, I think it's just taking back so much of your means of production, doing what you can do, working together, and kind of getting yourself out of that capitalist worldview. Friendship, divine timing, and serenity. And to me as well, this is, with this playfulness, really is friendships coming in. For some of you, this is like you've been looking for it as well. You've been trying to manifest it. And we feel like that whoever this is a friendship that is coming in of like-minded people, of someone who may share the same hobbies as you, or who's going to introduce you into something that, you know, you haven't quite explored right now. But with this King of Pentacles, this Hangman, Nine of Cups, it's something that's somebody who's really, really grounded. Could be an earth sign as well, Taurus, Virgo, or a Capricorn. But I feel like it's somebody who's got their priorities in line and their needs are met, you know. And it again, they're giving me like farmers for some of you because they're gray hair. This could be like a grandfather figure as well, kind of telling you what they've done. I know that listening to my grandparents, right, and even now, they are still preserving their own food. Well into almost their 80s, 70s and 80s, and late 80s. Still making their own pickles, still making their own sauces, still preserving what's in their garden, because they know that, you know, sometimes hard times can fall, and especially considering those on a limited resource, that you are basically freeing up money for something else later on. That's the message I'm going to leave you with. They're just telling me to look at the bottom of the decks. One is the Fool. Taking a leap of faith. For me, this has so much to do with taking a new approach to how we look and interact with the world around us. And the Ten of Wands, which is salmon, spearing. I have the Four of Wands. I love this card. Now, it's in the reverse, but oh my god, these mockingbirds with the full... I'm going to take it. Because there is a real celebration here of once, you know, getting through the hard times. And for some of you as well, this really may resonate economically, that there's hard times, and there's been hard times, and it sounds like they're going to get a little bit harder, especially if you live in Canada, the U.S., with the current situation. And this is, again, just finding ways that you don't need to participate in that system, don't need to participate in that struggle, because it is a struggle. There's spears all around, and this is both of, you know, having to swim against the current and go through very, very difficult times just to spawn, right, for the salmon. But that you are going to come out in the end victorious, and there's so much to celebrate. So again, they're saying, you know what? If we're living through hard times, celebrate what we can and do your part to take that active step in making sure that you're doing what you can do to make your needs met. That's what I got. I hope it resonates, and I love you. I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.